Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Thank you for joining me again for another live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly chats to talk about a topic or two or five. We'll see how it goes. Anywho, if you're not new here, then you know every week we have a new poll. And we actually have a extra special live chat for you today. But let's get to the poll. I want to get ahead of myself. Okay, so today's poll is, what is your focus for voiceover audiobook narration? For your what is your focus for your career going forward in 2025? So far we have about 22 votes. Looks like 32% of you said you were looking for more training coaching. 55% of you said setting and implementing new goals. I think that's always good things to be looking at. 9% of you said getting an agent, and 5% of you said adapting to change and trends. And you know me, I like to be, sort of tricky with my poll questions. I think all of these are, they're all goals, right? If you think about it. Finding a new coach, getting training in, different niches or subsections of voiceover is always great, as a great goal to set for yourself. Getting an agent is a great goal. Adapting to the ever-changing landscape of trends and, changes in the industry. And that's all definite goal setting, right? But today I have someone who is very adept at goal setting. We were just chatting before, and he's a little bit more organized in the productivity and organization space, where I sort of thrive in the organized chaos. So I thought I would bring someone else in who is a little bit better at the organization. For those of you in my platinum group, you know Dwight. I've got Dwight here with me today. I'm going to put my ears on so I can hear him.
Hello there.
There we go. We got Dwight. Hey, Dwight.
Hello, Angela and my fellow Angelistos.
How you doing, Dwight?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
I'm doing. Okay, so as you know, the poll, I'm always a little bit tricky. Um, I know that you had. I'm just going to let you take the floor because
Okay.
because you've got a lot more interesting and better value add than I do at this point in this sphere. So introduce yourself to everybody who doesn't know you because not
Yeah.
everybody watching is in our platinum group. So let's start out with that and then
Well,
take the
hello,
floor.
I'm Dwight Dagenhart, and I'm a VO artist. I've been at this for about, on and off for 2 years, but really committed as of last March. Um, so committed that I actually built a truly engineered booth, and which I'm very proud of. And anyway, I want to go and first step back. First of all, Angela and I were having a quick discussion before, and let me say, Angela, you're amazing, and you get more shit done in a day than most people, and you've got it down to a pattern, and you have priority set that is very amazing. So a lot of people can learn from you in that way too. And I think the case in point that I'm going to say here before I go into my actual pattern that I worked on is, and I think this is true of everybody. You're going to find that people are successful, obviously, varying degrees. And in your case, as you have this eclectic kind of thing, but you get it done. You prioritize on the fly, and you make things go, and you self-evaluate, and that's very good in the whole process. You need to do that anyway. Now, what I try to tend to teach people is I don't want to change you, and I don't want anybody to be built into a box. And so far, I've worked with a lot of people in the corporate world and a lot of people in the smaller world of VO, and everybody has their own style. And you adapt what I tell you, and you adapt it to you. And there are some people here that take my training, which I gladly have given for free. And that's my pay it forward philosophy, along with the Angela's mentality of our platinum group. And it's something I truly believe I can offer people. So, but let's go look at the poll real quick. So I see that you've got the big winner right now is setting and implementing new goals. Perfect for today's discussion. More training is 28%, getting an agent 7%, and adapting to change and trends is 3%. Now, what's funny is I had actually had a different set of poll questions. What's your preferred way of setting your annual goals?
Just
So I'm
side
gonna.
note, I'm limited in character space
Oh, okay.
for it's like 20 characters. It's super small.
Well, first of all, those are great goals, and I think that's great. But I'm going to give these instead of as poll questions, but something for people to think about. So we have limited time, and believe it or not, there's more to all this, the science of it, but it's boring. But I'm going to go into some really high level stuff. We'll get more in depth. Anybody that's in the Platinum group next Monday night at 8 p.m. I'll be sending out a Zoom link for that. But anyway, let me go to the polls, the questions or bullet points I want you guys quick to think about. What's your preferred way to set your annual goals? Do you clear out past year's work, then make your dreams and goals for this coming year? That's the first one. Do you just go ahead and make next year's goal for the near future and long term? Do you continue on with the plans you already have in place and don't really address it? Or do you have another methodology? So if you do, put it in the comments because we'd like to look at it and see what they are. But the real answer to both these polls is there's no really wrong answer because, like we always say, you're on your own VO journey, but you still want to be able to start maximizing when you realize that you're not doing as well as you'd like to. You've got to start doing goals. Now, if you look at the most successful people in life and in business and whatever, they're people that they're very good at looking at themselves, and sometimes it's very hard to do, but they look at themselves, they assess where they are, and they make new goals, and they go from there. And we as humans really need goals basically to measure our own growth and our improvements in what we've done in life and our endeavors. So if you think about it, this is especially true in the chaotic world of small business and in particular VO. So think about that. Goals and goal setting, they don't have to be hard, but they're your opportunity to really dream and grow with it. So what I'd like to do, let's see here. I do have some talking points, so bear with me if I go off the screen. I'm not going to do verbatim stuff that makes people crazy. They're goals. There's really two types of goals. There's three, but we stick with the two. Basically, you've got your long-term big goals, and you have your small-term or small goals. And if you think of the big goals, they're the big picture things. They're the long-term things. To put it in a vernacular that's really on a mindful process of how you're doing something, they're really part of your big why, if you think about it. They're part of the reason you're doing what you're doing. I hope part of your why is always because it brings you joy. I think that's important. But there's other things. You want to be able to do things independently, financially, maybe, or you want to eventually buy something or have something. Those are kind of your big goals, you know. Then there's the smaller goals, the dynamic goals. They're influenced quickly by outside forces. They're life. Life comes at you, and something happens today, and you're going full steam ahead, and then boom, something comes in from the side and hits you. And sometimes, unfortunately, we have one person named Allie who was just hit by a Mack truck. Well, let me tell you, that definitely does something to your path and what you're going. But you adapt, you work on it, you get people to support you, and you go forward. So let's talk about a little bit how you start doing this goal setting process. And mind you, I'm trying to cram a lot in a small space. So please ask questions as you go, and we'll do what we can. First thing that's really important is we assess, what did we do last year? We really have to look at it, and we have to just say, okay, make a list of what we did last year. Any accomplishments that you did, no matter how big or small, I did this. Believe it or not, on this year's 2024 assessment, I'm putting this session right here as one of the things I got done. Why? Because one, I'm honored that I was asked to do this. But two, it took time. I took personal time out of my other schedule because I felt it was important. And it is part of my overall growth. I celebrate this. And that word celebration is important because one of the things I didn't say before, but it's assess and celebrate. That's really important. You have to celebrate, you have to acknowledge all the big things and all the little things you do. I think that we forget to do that, and we don't put value judgments on these, except that we got something done. One of the things that one of my key people that I work with is, and hopefully Caesar doesn't mind me mentioning his name, but I have talked to him before, and he's always been open about this. I work with Caesar quite a bit. And one of the things I think I've given him, or he's actually given himself, is he acknowledges every little task he does. Oh, I set up a rack for somebody. Oh, I took some training with Angela. Oh, I did this. Stuff that he never looked at before, but now he has a separate column in his plan that says, I did this, I accomplished this, and every now and then, and I also tell him, roughly estimate how much time it took you. It does a couple things. One, he knows how much time something like for me, how much time does it take me to prepare something like this, okay? So next time somebody asks me to do something on a topic, I can just look at something from previous experience in my success column, and it says, oh, I did another 1-hour presentation on such and such topic, and it took me this much time. The hour for being there, the blah, 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 it's important. So you have a built-in learning thing right there, but you also can celebrate that. So Caesar celebrates that quite often, and he does look at it. We talk about that stuff all the time. Now, to assess what you've gotten done, you need a yardstick. And what your yardstick is can be anything you want. Here's some good examples. So say you've increased the number of clients you have if you're doing commercial work or regular audiobook work. Maybe the amount of books you narrated for 2024. How about big one in small business, if you're treating like a business? Money. How much money did you make? How much money did you spend? What did you spend it on? Those are all things. Even spending money is an accomplishment, because is it within budget? Is it out of budget? By how much? I learned from that. So all that knowledge is very powerful to you. Nobody likes to do the back work stuff, the back office stuff. We all want to be in front of the microphone, and we all want to be doing our recordings. But this is all part of the other stuff that really helps us become successful. Also, another thing on your yardstick is you got to look at your big goals and your small goals as two different measurable items, and you evaluate those differently. Because a lot of the big goals you can't accomplish, like I said, or maybe I didn't. I've read this so much, but you can accomplish it. You can't accomplish them in 1 year. You know, I want to buy a big house on the ocean. I don't have one. I'm a half mile from the ocean, but I want one. So am I going to do that? Maybe, but that's my dream, my big sky, my big goals. A big goal was actually building this booth. I accomplished this big goal. This was really about 4 years out, and I realized for me,
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
What is the best way to break down a large goal into smaller, more manageable chunks? What is the best way to do that?
Okay. So that really is in step 3.
Okay.
So we'll jump to step 3, and that is a huge thing. First of all, big goals, as you know, are built of littler goals, medium-sized goals and small goals. And notice I didn't talk much about medium-sized goals. But basically, like, let's take VO. I knew I wanted to read out loud into a microphone. So immediately, I knew I wanted to record. I wanted to get it out there. Well, I knew there's always some marketing involved. I don't know how to do that in this world. There's equipment I need to have, and there's training I need to do. So my original goal for VO was, okay, learn enough about what kind of equipment I should invest in. So I had to get some sort of training. So I broke it down to doing some research. Research was a big part of my sub goal. I knew I had to get equipment, but I didn't know what equipment. So I knew that was going to be a medium task. I knew I had a mother load for a big mothership for a computer. No problem with the computing power. So that wasn't an issue. Just make sure that I have the right kind of things in the equipment, good graphic cards, things like that. So you have some inherent knowledge that you have to apply to big goals for little goals. So that was a very good question and very well placed. But that's kind of, you have to start with some, I've got to do this. Well, I know research is going to break down to more things, but I don't know what things yet. I know that research will be, I'm going to watch a bunch of YouTubes. Oh, I happened to run across this guy on TikTok, and I went down that rabbit hole. So I just inherently build in some things through experience, Like you say, what are these smaller things? You have to do the research to get some of that stuff figured out. Talk to people, network, things like that. All those kinds of things help you define and learn what you need to make for smaller, more achievable goals. Did I answer your question enough?
Yeah, I think I'm, me, I'm usually short, sweet. So I would say
Yep.
just brain dump everything that you've already learned. But to your point, we don't know a lot of times what we don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know what we don't know. So then once you brain dump, once you go, okay, I want to be a voice actor and I want to do all of this stuff. Here's what I know so far, brain dump. And then you start to research all the smaller points, like what kind of computer do I need? What kind of equipment do I need? Where do I find work? Do I need training? You ask yourself all of these questions. And there you start to further refine and through the research. I need to do this, I need to do this. So once you have all of these elements, is there a way, because I get this question a lot, what do I do first? And we talk about this a lot here on my channel, right?
I know we do. Yes, we
There's
do.
so much to acquire, to learn, to focus on, to build. What do I do first, and how do I accomplish this elephant of a task and not
Okay.
like just want to pull my hair out?
Well, so this is true of any small business, any big business. But and I'm going to talk about biting the elephant. You may want to start eating the elephant at the snout. I happen to like toenails, so I'll do toenails. I mean, just to be goofy, right? So it's whatever. It's everybody's going to have their own starting point, and I don't care what business you go into. I opened a sign business knowing absolutely nothing about signs. I made I did that for 7 years. I sold the business and made some good money. And I had major clients. So, but I knew enough that I had a computer. I knew enough about vinyl, enough about a couple of things, and I started the business. I knew nothing about installation, but I knew carpentry. So you basically you start saying, well, I don't know how to do all this. So what are the things I think I'm going to know? Well, I know I got to build this sign, build signs. What do you put into a sign? And you start thinking just common sense. Like you say, you figured out you needed a microphone in this business, we needed gear. But as soon as I could tap into a network and research together and find a place I could ask questions, listen a lot, lurk. So in our business, that was important. You will always, you can't go wrong with more information. It may not be accurate information, but even bad information, you're going to learn to filter out eventually. So you've got to take in as much as you can. And back to this other part of new business, we spend huge amount of time in a new business. And I don't care if you're doing this part-time or full-time, you're taking away from your family time. You're taking away, as before when you were working in the auto industry, you had a full-time job, and then you learned, you practiced, you did LibriVox, you did things, you found these. Well, how did you find LibriVox? Somehow in some form of network or training, you learned about LibriVox. Somehow you learned about to use YouTube and watch stuff there. So there are certain things that, people will tell you, but there's 1,000 books out there that tell you, what it is. But how do you prioritize? That's you. That's you being passionate about you, and also what works with you. You have different requirements on your life. We all have financial responsibilities, and quite often that's a big number. That's the number that helps guide on whether you're going to spend more time lurking and patchworking something together, maybe using a decent USB microphone. Sure, it's not the end all be all, but you do that, you develop. We all have to pay our dues, and I don't care what business it is, and you're going to pay dues in different ways. So that said, hopefully I've helped narrow that a little bit.
So everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different. But
Absolutely.
research to your point is absolutely key, because what comes first
The
for
chicken or the
you
egg.
on your own path is going to be determined by you.
Absolutely.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
everybody's got different time to spare. Everyone's got different responsibilities and things. So
Yep.
for anybody watching, if you're wanting to get into this, or just even looking at a big goal for next year, it's going to come down to networking, joining groups, gaining information, the research stage, right? But just be careful not to get stuck in the everybody say it together. The
Procrastinating.
stage, right? Don't allow yourself to get stuck there because of analysis paralysis, fear, right? It's all fear
Yeah.
based.
Yep.
So, but the important thing to do is once you have everything down, and this isn't just starting the business, this is with any goal that you're looking at doing, brain dump it, do the research on it, get all the information to all the little, all the minutia, everything that comes up, and you have everything in front of you, and then you have to break them down into smaller goals based on priority for
Yep.
you and your situation, what is important to you. There really isn't a right way or wrong way because again, as we've talked about on my channel lots of times about it's the whole chicken and the egg thing. Okay, do I get training first or do I get the equipment first? What do I do? How do I break this down? Just do it. At some point it'll all come together and everything will start to fall into place. I think our biggest problem, apart from fear of just getting started, period, or getting stuck in that analysis paralysis, is it's just like the overwhelm, right? It's just okay. I can't start doing this because I don't have this. Well, if I had this, you just have to go.
Right.
The most important thing to do is just to start. You have all the information there. You can reach out to anybody in your groups and say, okay, well, what did you do? How did you get past this or whatever? But the most important thing is just to start. And then break these things down into order of priority based on, again, what's important to you or where you can, because everyone's got, I'm rambling.
If I can, I'd
Yep.
like to. So to simplify this a little bit, so you've done your analysis, you've done your assessment, you've celebrated everything. Now you're into the goal part. You've looked at last year. So now you're going into the actual making your goals for this coming year. First thing you're doing is you're carrying over all the goals that you haven't finished that are still important. Maybe buying a house on the beach is no longer important because
No, it's
where I
important.
live, we're worried about climate change and actually beaches eroding. So where I live is safe. Buying beachfront's no longer a good idea. It's now changed to a house on a lake. That's my big goal. So you will assess those, you move them forward. They're the first building blocks of next year's goals. And remember, the big goals, remember, they're always your why. So if your why is not being met, really just reassess all that. Small goals that we've said are achievable. Now, we're not talking about the worthiness of the goal, but to Angela's point, take everything you can at this point, dream big, and get it down on the goal list. Say, okay, now for those that have been in the business a long while, a short while, you understand the business so much bigger than it is, but you've kind of carved out a path that you kind of want to follow. The things you want to do. I want to get into some commercial work. So I've got that path and that ready there. So I now understand enough that I have to do a really good job with my Fiverr. I have to do stuff with my Upwork, and I have to do things with my demos. All of those are going to be more defined. They're going to be in my smaller goal lists, individual things, my medium list. Again, I don't like to do too much with the medium because quite often I talk and we work at kind of a high level. Example, say somebody calls me and says, "Hey Dwight, I need to do an effects rack." Well, that's not my expertise, but yeah, they can't do. I said I'll help you with something, so I'll do something. Well, an effects rack is built up of a lot of other things, right? Other plugins. So those, if you compare that as a task, setting up an effects rack, I can do that, but I have to get the right things for them. I have to now, do a little bit on their booth. So I know it's involved with other tasks. So if I need that level of granularity, I build it into my things, but that's really in my plan. It's not in my regular just goal list. My goal is just to help people with this, build some effects racks, things like that. Okay. Now, So now that you've brain dumped all this stuff, you're not, it's not here that you're defining your worthiness. Is it worth doing? I'd rather you brain dump every single thing you do. Now, when I teach organization to people, the first step is before we meet, I have you write everything you want, everything you desire, everything you need, and I have you do two of them, one for a VO and one for your personal life. And I do that intentionally because you have to have those in balance eventually. At first, one's going to be more 80-20, then it's going to be 60-40, then it's going to be more 50-50. And then you're going to be like Angela, who actually has a defined time period that she typically works, her 9 to 5. And then there's certain times, certain days that she does a little more, certain days she does a little less, but she's kept her personal life in balance. Sorry if I used you as an example, Angela.
It's okay. It's
But
mostly in balance.
well, there you go. And is it life ever totally in balance? We're always juggling something, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is. And how we learn to be adaptable is important. But the next part, after you've got all this dreaming, now you're making a plan to succeed and accomplish these goals. And I always say, dream big, achieve small, and accomplish your goals. Now, this is a separate topic. It goes on for a lot. We're not going to really go into this, but basically it's at this point that you're going to prioritize, you're going to plan, you're going to determine your worthiness of those goals. And believe it or not, this is something that you're going to have to do often. When they say some people get up and they say, well, I plan my week either Friday before I get off work or Monday morning, the first thing I do, I get up and I say, what am I doing this week? So
What
in
do
a
you
way,
do?
what do I do?
Do you plan the week before or the week of?
I'm always looking, usually like on Thursday, while I'm sitting in our group, platinum group at night, and we're all yucking it up. I'm doing some side tasks, like half the people there, and I'm looking at and saying, okay, what am I doing next week? And then I say, okay, I got that. I've done a first look at it, and then I'll look at it again Friday night before I end the week and say, okay, I know I have XYZ in personal life, doctor's appointments, doctors, lawyers,
Sure.
Indian things, and then I have my business stuff, and I look at the calendar. I'm good to go, and I talk to my wife about it.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I don't think a whole lot of people do that. Or they actually plan the week ahead at all. I mean, and you can incorporate the smaller goals that
Oh,
make
absolutely.
up a medium-sized goal, which
Uh,
then in turns, is
You
a
you
piece of the larger goal.
you have to, because they're all, and I'm going to use the negative term, they're all time killers. It's actually time eaters. They take time to do. Every task you do takes time. But I don't want you ever to think of those tasks as negative. You really can't, because they're necessary building blocks on what you're doing. If you have to set up your booth because you bought a new microphone, it's something you've got to take the time to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do it. You want to be in front of that microphone, but you really have to take the analysis, do the testing, make sure things work. And you build that in. All of a sudden, I got my unboxed mic. Now I've got to set it up. I allow time for that. And I
Mm-hmm.
block that out on my to-do for the upcoming week.
And I really wanted to insert here also that I think you mentioned this earlier when we were talking before we went live, but it's to celebrate everything,
Oh,
celebrate all of these things, because not only can you mark something off of that list that you have, small, medium, large goal, whatever it is, you can, and there's nothing as gratifying as that anyway, is marking something done, but you're reprogramming your brain with little positive treats, right? If you tell yourself,
affirmations.
okay, whatever it is, if you have a micro goal and you accomplish it, you could tell yourself, okay, once I have this thing done, I'm going to celebrate it by, I don't know, if you're a chocolate nut like me, you can have a little piece of candy or something. I mean, whatever it is. And then once you achieve a medium sized goal, treat yourself to something nice. Go and get yourself a little something. Maybe you have a glass of wine or whatever it is, right? But celebrate everything,
Mhm.
because everything you do, as Dwight put it, was a time killer. I mean, it takes time, but I don't really think we should call it a time killer. It's still progress.
Oh no, it is progress. It's just
Progress. It's baby
uh,
steps of progress. So any kind of step forward that you're making, no matter how small or insignificant you think it may be, you're looking at your studio and you're putting all your stuff together. Like Dwight was saying, you have all these things to do to have a working studio. You got to plug everything in. You got to get all the software. You got to do all the stuff. Yeah, it takes time and some of it's a little bit frustrating, but you know what? When it's done, in most cases, you don't have to mess with it ever again, right?
absolutely.
But let's do this. We've got a ton of questions and comments.
Sure.
I did see somebody
Can I
said that,
introduce? I just want one thing I want to say
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in final. So as you're making your plans, it's really important as you go. And we were talking about my weekly thing. One of the things is it's at that point, that Friday night, not only am I saying what am I doing next week, it's at that point that I'm acknowledging what I've just done, what I got done this previous week. And that's when I kick back and I go upstairs and I talk with my wife. We have a nice dinner, and I say I got this done, and I celebrate it that way. She doesn't care what it is. She's just happy to see that I'm happy, and I'm happy that I'm acknowledging it for myself. So that's important. Also, I also like to tell people work in 2 weeks. I'm always planning this coming week, and the week after with my roughly what I'll be doing 2 weeks out. And it helps because there are things that I know are going to carry over, but they take a certain amount of time. And I need to know that ahead of time, especially when life comes in the way. And I know it.
Mm,
So we have deadlines. So it's always important to be looking out at deadlines or self-imposed deadlines. But where you're in the book industry or commercial industry, it's important you meet deadlines. And if all of a sudden it comes up on you, then you have a 20-hour day that you never wanted. So always
right.
looking out far enough ahead to protect yourself and celebrate, 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 celebrate. And just before you do, so anybody that is not part of Platinum or is Platinum, if you want my little brief that I wrote for this, which kind of spells out what we did, just go my name Dwight at my full name Dwight Dagenhart.com. So, and just send a note and say I'd like a copy, and I'll send one back to you.
And for those in the Platinum group, we can put it in our group folder, or
Exactly.
you could share it in Discord.
Yeah.
That would probably be easier. I'll
Yeah.
put it in the folder anyway.
Yeah.
But
I've got an
so
updated one for you, so don't put the one I gave you.
okay, okay. So and then you also mentioned to plan a couple weeks out. It's also good to maybe have a self-imposed goal monthly, quarterly, yearly.
Actually, that's all part of the big stuff. Yes, I do
Okay.
have a monthly and I have a 3 month goal. We tend to really do a serious evaluation at the 3 month mark. I do a 1 month when I'm first training people. It takes, we didn't talk about muscle memory and good habits, but what you're developing is good habits. And for those of you who don't think
Yes.
this works, I am as eclectic as it can get. I am a ADHD. Oh, look, a squirrel. I'm going after it. But you train yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you train yourself. And actually, it takes the chaos out of the mental part of it because you're saying, okay, I got these things come in. So when one or two hits come in here or there, or oh look, I want to go to that class that just came up, I can do it, and I'm not gonna value judgment myself. I'm just gonna build in. If it has to be right away, I build it in right away.
And
You
that's
know,
where the celebrations come in. The celebrations is part of
absolutely.
training yourself to do these new habits, to incorporate these new habits. It's part of the reframing or retraining. When you're celebrating, you're congratulating yourself
Hmm.
on creating a new habit. And that is the most important thing, I think, with goal setting, is not only having and accomplishing, breaking down, achieving the goal, but the habits, the new habits that come along with it, because you could say, hey, this is my goal for the year. This is my plan to achieve it. But if you're not creating the habits to achieve that goal, the new habits.
There's one word, the big C. The big C in any business is consistency.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you start getting consistent. Now, I'm not telling everybody that, because I'm one of these people, if somebody like me came and told me this, my first reaction is, I'm not having you teach me how to, go on a diet. I'm not having you how to do this, how to do that. But what happens is you start doing some of these things and you incorporate little parts of them and you start seeing the value of them. Don't take big chunks at this elephant, take little bites, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A good example, I've taught a lot of people, the first thing in organization for electronics in our business is my date method. Every one of my files and everybody I work with, they do year, they do month, they do day on the very beginning of all their files, and except for when they send to submit for auditions and final going to production. I mean,
You mean the audio files are
audio
named?
files, scripts. As soon as I download a script, I rename it with the date, everything. And they all go in the appropriate folder. But the first thing I tell them is, if you can do a date, it's a little thing, it's a habit. You get that date on there and you always put that date. Guess what? I can always find something within 2 to 3 minutes, as opposed to a big search of 10 terabytes of data, which is going to take me a half a day. So consistency, just take little chunks and just keep doing that one good habit over and over and over. Then you're like, oh, I don't care, I can always find stuff real fast. Then, oh, these keystrokes, I always do this keystroke. It's a habit. It's a consistency and showing up. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate the wins. And there are no losses. There's just learning opportunities.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See my box?
And
I just
he's
stepped off of it.
And he's done.
And he's done.
Okay.
Is he ever
So
done
perfect. All right, let's hop over to the comments. We've got lots of people in here with questions. Okay. PSV Odyssey, of course, was here before I was even in. Paul gets here early. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Good morning from Paul in Arkansas. And then we had Paul, another Paul, Paul Landergan came in here. Good day, Angela et al. From Dunmow, UK, and Happy New Year to everyone. Yes, it is New Year's Eve. This is I think Caesar's probably already into New Year's, right? Isn't he? Because he's like way ahead of us. Anyway, Happy New Year's. Happy 2025, Caesar, if that's the case. But perfect day for at least reflecting on the year past and what you want to accomplish next year. I mean, now would be a great time to do all of that. Then Paul says, my main goal for 2025 is achieving a broader range and better consistency of characters and accents. I think that's a great goal. It's a great goal. And the best advice I could give you, Paul, is to play. Don't be afraid to play. It's something we do a lot in our platinum group with, What's My Voice and the Wheel of Emotion and all of the things that we do. We gamify these things because we're encouraging play. We're encouraging stepping outside of our comfort zones and trying new things. Step outside of the box and look at things in a different way. And then having other people with you. And then you can pick up on their perception of things and then their interpretation. And then maybe you go, oh, I didn't think of that. I'm going to try that. Hey, I can do that. And then, poof, there you go. And now you got a new archetype. But you didn't know that you had one until you allow yourself to play. So that's the best way to achieve that. Get involved in groups where you can bounce things off of other people and play. Paul says, nice to have, but a lower priority. 1, greater number and variety of projects. Just get out there. Just get out there and take a look around and be receptive to, clients, if they ask you if you can do something, say, heck yeah, and then do a little research and see if you actually can, and then go, let's give it a shot. Just trying, again, stepping outside the box, trying new things. 2, better paid projects. Those will come with time. And 3, finding a way to make royalty share pay. Again, comes with time, and just doing, right? Because in a perfect world, if we wanted to all do royalty share, they'd all be, 20-hour books and something, maybe we enjoy narrating, something that is interesting to us. But I mean, if you think about even just the small little royalty share books, those all add up, right? Even if you were making $1 a book, but you had 50 of them, if they were just little half-hour books, an hour book, yeah, you'll have, $50 a month, but for all of that work you did. But then also think about all of the experience and everything that you've learned through the process of making all those books. Maybe you discovered a better way to filter out, or let me say, better ways of finding out more information about the author, better ways to market the book, better ways to so on and so forth. There's a lot of learning in just the doing. I feel like I'm pumping the brakes on tangents all over the place, so I'm a little scatterbrained. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning. Wishing everyone a happy and prosperous new year. Absolutely. 2025 is going to be amazing. I can feel it. Peak Parable says, good morning, Angela. Thank you so much for all you do. My diction has not always been clear, but your interpretation of spelling is great. Sawdust from construction makes hard to spell sometimes. Caesar says, oh, hi. Oh, here's Caesar. Oh, hi, Angela. New goals for sure. Made many new discoveries and skill set improvements. I can speak. Just this December, following a bout of imposter syndrome and mild despair, I now feel more than adequately prepared. Yeah, imposter syndrome, that's a whole other episode. Peak Parable
No,
says,
Caesar.
Yeah, no, Caesar. My goal or hope this year is to move from royalty share gigs into more royalty plus or per finished hour gigs to help with moving away from working outside in a balmy 18 degrees today. Just keep at it, Peak Parables, is all I can say. I think a lot of us working for someone else and just kind of dipping toes in the beginning, we're all in that same place. Just keep going. And just like Dwight said, the C word, consistency. Just keep at it. Glowen is here. Hey, Glowen. Good afternoon. Voiceover Angela in chat. I see some familiar names, Caesar and Rustic Hillbilly. I will set new goals, starting with at least 10 auditions next 2 weeks. Is that daily? Or are you setting a 10 audition goal for the span of the 2 weeks? I think you should do that daily.
Don't forget, some of these people, Angela, are not talking about, they're talking about books versus commercial. If you're doing commercial work, you're going to be pounding away a lot faster than that. So,
Yep. You can start small, again, depending on what time is available to you and what it is that you're doing, to Dwight's point, if it's audiobooks or if it's, e-learning, commercial work, whatever it is. But my point is, don't limit yourself. Even if it is 10 auditions over the span of 2 weeks, make it 15. Make it, don't cap it. It's a goal, yeah, but you want to go past that goal too. Right? So don't tell yourself only 10, at least 10, right? Yeah, at least. Peak Parable says to have a better work-life balance, a more pleasant work environment. Consistency.
I'd like to talk to that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Peak, because that's one of the things that I really work with when I work with various people is how do you get to the point where you get some work-life balance? And we find that after about 3-4 months, there are enough positive habits that have been built into making and working a plan that people start shrinking that working time because they're making it more productive. by being a little bit more organized and a little less chaos or chaotic, it adds to that personal time. So that's one of the things I think that, and again, Caesar's a good example. He's inverted, where he had no personal time, and he now has a personal time. He gets to spend time with his wife, go out for breakfast once in a while, go out for dinner, do some things that before we started working, he wasn't able to do. There's some other people, but I didn't ask permission to use their names, so that's why I haven't mentioned. But that's just something to think about as you get more good habits and you build in efficiencies and prioritizations better and get things done. You spend less time on the back office stuff, more time on the actual recording, and more time in your personal life. So
organization can definitely help with that work-life balance and getting
absolutely.
you to that place where you're in a more pleasant work environment. So organization is definitely important. Unless you're me and you thrive in organized chaos, it's probably going to take a little bit longer, but nevertheless, consistency.
But you're still organized because you have a method. And we've talked about, so you have a method on how you do that, and that's good. And those habits, that's the thing. You have habits and you're consistent with them. You found something that works for you and you follow that. And it's still adaptable enough to bring in those outside forces because we have them. And everybody uses them. We use them as excuses instead of as, that's life. It's not something to look at negative. It's just life. All of a sudden, I got to take the dog to the vet. All of a sudden, the dog wants to go for an extra walk. Guess what? That's life. Go enjoy the dog walk, Mm-hmm. So, take the emotion out of it, get the practicality of it back in. So that's all.
Glauwin says, my biggest hurdle has been full-time work, but that has been rectified. Second biggest hurdle, lack of confidence in self to be worthy of a rights holder author choosing me to be their voice. Sounds like we need to do another episode on imposter syndrome. All I can say to that, Glauwin, is I know it's hard, and we've talked about a few different ways of just starting the recording without, because I think we overthink it. As soon as we hit that record button, we need to be somebody else, and then we have all these other voices in our heads. Are they going to like it? Is this going to be successful? Is anybody going to like me? Is anybody going to hire me? And all of those voices just sort of, it's paralyzing to some people. But if you can find a way, and as I've mentioned before, just by hitting the record button first before you start auditioning or anything like that, and then open your script, and then interpret the script, and then read through it a couple times, and you've forgotten that you're already recording. I mean, for the most part, you're aware, but it's not like as daunting anymore. And then start recording, then that might help. Or the counting to 5 and then act, right? Close your eyes and you count to 5. Okay, act. I don't care what happens, I'm doing it, right? But my point is, you'll gain so much more confidence by just doing it. And the more that you do it, the more confidence you're going to have. And then the more you'll discover that it's ultimately not up to us. Our opinions don't matter about our voices, right? Because we all cringe. We go, okay, no one's going to want to hire us because my voice is not that great. But your opinion doesn't matter. What the client thinks of your voice is all that matters. But you don't know that until you get out there and do it, right? So my point, do it. The confidence will come in just the doing. You will see. But the doing is hard for a lot of people, I find. Glauwin says, for chat, as you choose your poll selection, slide the mouse over to hit the thumbs up for my algorithm. Yes, please. Hit that thumbs up, everybody. Hit that like button, smash it, tickle it, whatever you want to do. Just do it. It helps. Thank you. Caesar says, I'll be hitting the ground running with new Fiverr gigs for commercial work, YouTube VO, and audio production services. We'll also expand studio with new analog gear. Of course you will. all in a very excited for 2025. I bet you are. I wonder how much he's already purchased. Clown says to Caesar, how is it possible for you to have new gear? Don't you have everything already? You'd be surprised. Caesar can find some stuff. Caesar said, that said, hello everyone. New Year just came and went in the Philippines. It's an hour past midnight. I live in the future. He does. Advanced 2025 greetings for the rest of the world. Don't eat the fireworks. Yeah, and don't light them off in your hand either. Safety first. Caesar says to Glowen, surprisingly, no. Just discovered analog equipment, higher headroom, transformer, and tube warmth. It's a whole new realm of really good stuff. Glowen says, LOL, then it is good for you to have new VO and production goals. Sounds like you'll need the money for the new toys. Caesar's middle name, new toys. I am Jason Allen, says, I continue to struggle with ACX's check. I adjust one fail and then lose one of the other categories that was a pass. And I think this was one of the biggest struggles for me. But I think once you finally, through all this trial and error, you will finally understand how everything sort of works in harmony. Because it's, for me anyway, what it was is just one small tweak that I was doing or something in my effects rack that was just in the wrong numbered slot, right? Because if, for Adobe Audition, for example, you have your effects are in numbered slots. I don't know what they are for other DAWs, so forgive me, but that is the order in which those elements are applied, those effects are applied. So even just moving one to a different process point in the chain can change everything. So, but if you're having real big issues with this, and this is super frustrating for you, then reach out to an audio engineer. Again, join groups. You may run into somebody who is in a similar situation and has solved it. Or maybe someone may be willing to work with you to find out what is going on in your effects rack that is throwing the one thing off every time, right? Or maybe it's just one little misunderstanding about how something works somewhere in your DAW that's throwing everything off. I mean, it's usually something simple that just frustrates the, out of us all the time. So get with some peers. Ask for some help. Johnny Wing says, hi all from Johnny, Cambridge, UK. 2025 starts in 7 hours here. Big VO plans this coming year. Good. Happy New Year in advance to all. Glowen says, as for myself, I want to be able to update my ACX and newly created voices profiles. My intention is to move from Canada to Thailand in late April. Wow. Caesar says to Glowen, oh my God, yes, this stuff is on a whole other level in terms of cost. Knuckles turned white at checkout. Not even kidding. But to hear a new finished or a near finished sound before it hits the DAW. Kathleen says, hello, Angela and everyone. Happy New Year. David Brumfield says, hope you are doing well this last day of 2024. Hello from Hamilton, Ontario. Caesar, looks like you're echoing the same thing I just said. Well, to join the Platinum group. I don't think he is, but join us on Discord. Let's see. Trying to find some questions. Glowen says to Caesar, near finished sound. Monty says to Dwight, the instigator of the mom look. Yes, this is Dwight. This is the one that always tries to get the mom look out of me. Yes, this is Dwight.
I've been good today. Good, well behaved.
So far. We'll see.
It's early yet.
All right, let's see if we can get to some questions. Caesar says, hi, Dwight. Nice to meet you for the first time.
Caesar, nice to meet you, young man.
Masonry Construction says, I want to be more organized and push harder for new goals, such as setting up templates and formats to systemize work products, whether audios, videos, or writing pieces, podcasts, and marketing.
Always part of the organizational process. Anything you can do to get a process down, whether it's your recording process chain, your communications chain on how you deal with clients, Many of us have templates that we set up for our response when we're doing an audition for ACX. We also set stuff up like I have certain templates set up in PayPal for when I'm billing. So templates are definitely useful, and processes, repeatable processes, are part of that muscle memory that helps become efficiency important and forward. Something you want to definitely work on. So that's great.
Yeah,
Glad to
templates,
hear.
templates, and I mean, even with the technology we have today with AI and everything that can help build templates, systems, automate, we have so much more help now to streamline our processes and systems than ever before. I'm not even fully aware or have a full grasp on everything that is available out there. I'm sure my life could be a whole lot
Mhm.
easier. My
One
business
thing,
could be a whole lot better streamlined if I just fully understood everything available to us.
one thing I will say about templates, no matter which template you use for whatever, always review it before you hit send.
Oh, yeah.
Because quite often there's always something that is general that has to be specific. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the one danger, the danger noodle that you have to worry about with a template. But I'm a big advocate of them.
A danger noodle?
A danger noodle, a snake in the grass,
I
something
know.
that's going to bite you.
A nope
Can you
rope.
tell I have a daughter that's into anime?
That's funny. Because I knew exactly what that was. I just thought it was funny. A danger noodle. Eric Grimes is here. Hey, Eric. Hi, Angela and everyone. I always want to keep learning, which is why I'm part of the Platinum Group. Invaluable. My goal is to find books that pay either per finished hour or profit share plus this year. Well, who was it that Dylan, or was it Dylan or Sean Lester? I think it might have been Sean, who said that his goal every day was to hop into ACX and do an audition of each, right? Audition for a per finished hour, audition for a royalty share, and a royalty share plus, even if it was something outside of his normal like search parameters. So if you're wanting to do something, a specific kind of book, genre, length, price point, whatever it was, and there aren't any, then just choose something else that may be outside of that, but at least one of each every day. I think
To
that's
to
that's
that
a good
point,
habit.
Angela, and some of you may know I've been a non-royalty share bigot. So, and in the self-assessment I've done for 2025 is I've always done only royalty share plus or PFH. I felt my time was more valuable. Now I'm realizing I can't do that. I need to get more books under my belt, and better to have $3 a month come in than no dollars a month come in. Even though it's not a money thing for me, it's I have to have that validation that I'm actually producing something that is being listened to. So those of you who are like me, I like that approach of doing one of each, royalty share plus, and a PFH. And to that point, Glowin, I challenge you to go out and look for a $200 to $400 PFH on ACX. They're out there,
Mm-hmm.
and just look at one and try it. I
Yep.
still do those. I've never gotten one, but you never know. At some point, you might hit, and also it doesn't hurt. It's practice.
Mm-hmm.
So reach, to Angela's point, reach, and but don't fear and don't think you're doing something bad if you have to step back. I'm stepping back. I think it's important for my growth. So be honest with yourself, but don't let it beat you up emotionally. So sorry, didn't mean to hijack.
No, that's fine. Um, just to piggyback off of what you just said, you never know when you're going to cross paths with that author who is looking for exactly your voice. Because again, even when they're clicking the buttons in the filter for what kind of narrator they're looking for, or they may even articulate what kind of tone, accent, whatever they're looking for. But maybe what they had in their head is exactly what they're looking for, but maybe they hear something else that inspires them to change their mind. So we're sort of going in quasi-blind when we're submitting auditions, thinking that, okay, well, according to what they say, I'm a fit, but you never really know for sure. So anyway, don't stop yourself from submitting an audition for, for any reason, because you could be, even if it's a goal, like I wanted to hit 3 auditions a day and you see something else you want to do that audition too. Just because you hit your goal doesn't mean stop. It could be that book that you get hired for. Am I making any sense? I feel like I'm just kind of.
You're doing fine.
Okay. Tanya says, hey, good evening, everyone from Manchester. Happy New Year with all this great advice. Masonry Construction says, Dwight, if I had to first clear out my old goals, I'd never get around to setting any new goals, but that's just me.
No, so masonry, that's not just you. A lot of people are like that. But you'll find that there's a point when you're doing this evaluation and you're doing your planning phase, which is after your goal, just getting goals down. When you're doing the assessment of that, as far as prioritizing, you start realizing, and this is true in any planning that you're doing, what really is something that you have to do. It's amazing how much stuff um, falls off your to-do list, your goal list, your big goals, and they evolve. So don't be afraid to say, well, I really don't need to do that. Quite often, you actually go beyond what that some tasks need to be. Like, let's say you were looking for certain types of equipment. Say you're in a certain type of business, so you use masonry construction, and say you decide you're doing, you have to have put in driveways, small driveways. Well, you say you're going to get a certain type of compressor, and then all of a sudden something comes out, and you can buy it cheaper. It's bigger, it'll do more. It's beyond what you were planning on. Compactor, say, you buy it. Well, that little idea goes out the window. This other thing does all these other things, and you can do it. So whatever it is, you will be evaluating at some point and saying, hey, do I still need to do that? Because if not, get it off. Save it. I always save these things, so I can go back and say, hey, what did I, even in the goal setting, what did I bring in here in my dreaming? And you start realizing that there are things that they're just fluff. You don't need them. And there are obstacles in the mental thing. You want to clear some of that out. So,
And dreams change, or
dreams
visions
change all
change.
the time.
Directions change. There's always change. Change is the one thing that we can't really do anything about.
It's the
So,
constant.
right. So, your goals are going to change. And if it's, to Dwight's point, if clearing out the old goals, I think, is because you might have smaller goals or bite-sized pieces of that original goal still yet on your goal to-do list, and if that's no longer the main goal, then it's just wasted time.
And it also
So,
has an emotional baggage.
yeah.
And that's the other thing. You want to get rid of emotional baggage, because then you don't feel successful. We're about, celebrating and how are we moving forward. And some of these are just anchors, and you just say, that's not important. That I don't need that anymore. Boom, gone.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of it. So you do evaluate that stuff too.
Absolutely. All right, let's see if we can find you some more questions. Jason says to Caesar, thank you. I'm using Audacity with the ACX check plugin, but I'm stuck in the loop of the changes seesaw. Yeah, it's I think something we all experience, to be honest. David was asking a question, and then David asked this question. Oh, hang on a second. Jason had a question to Caesar. I've watched several YouTube videos. Oh, Tim, do you have a YouTube? Oh, okay. That was for Caesar. Okay, so David Brumfield says, for an audiobook audition, do we really need to slate the audition? I would never slate an audition. No, because if you think about it from a casting director, author, whomever is soliciting the audition, they have hundreds to listen through. Your name should be in the name of the file. Put your name in the name, like the file name, so they know who you are and what you're auditioning for. The actual audition audio should get right to the point. No 5 seconds of dead air. No, hey, my name is Dave and I'm going to be doing this. They know what book you're auditioning for. And if your name is in the audition file name, they can find you, right? They have your name. They want to hear their words in your voice, which is essentially why we're here in the first place, right? We're auditioning for a book. We want to see if my voice would be good for your project. So get right to it. I wouldn't even bother slating. The only time I would slate is if I had 2 takes of 2 different approaches, but not for audiobooks, period. If it was like a commercial and maybe it was a little vague, like the description for what they wanted, and I wanted to do 2 takes, I would start at the beginning of that file with, this is take 1 of 2. That's the only time I'd actually like slate. Otherwise, get right to the audition. So don't bother with the slate.
Angela, there's a thing that I put out on Discord a while back in November, and it basically talks specifically to that, and it's from William Scooby Crockett, and he says 3 major tips for auditioning. It's a video link I'm going to try and put out here. Please don't click on it, and I put spaces in there so it passes YouTube. Is it okay if I post that? And they can copy paste later and do that. They can go see it. But it's very quick and it's short, but it tells you what they will accept and won't accept. And this is a huge topic that's hitting into TikTok and to Instagram. I've been noticing lately about, what these people want to see or don't see. Mm-hmm. So it's basically out on Vimeo, Vimeo.com. All I'll do is I'll just put out the number. There's a number here. And I just posted that, and you can type that into a Google search bar or whatever, and you'll go to it. But it's vimeo.com / then that number. So there you go.
Thank you,
Definitely Dwight. A good looky-loo.
David then continues to say, it seems by the time the author hears your slate, they may already make a judgment on your voice before the script actually begins. Yeah, I wouldn't even, just get right. They just want to hear your words, their words in your voice. Just get right to it. Let's see. Musical Neptunian says, I know the sign business quite well. I've been to some sign business expos. Mm-hmm. This must have been way at the beginning of our session. The sign is very broad. A skyscraper whose lights from an old message.
Can I jump in real quick on that expo thing?
Real quick. We need to get to the rest of these questions.
Okay, real fast. On an expo, if you guys can afford to go to an expo for a VO, when I was in any new business that I started, I always looked for an expo or a conference that I could go to. Great learning opportunities, yes. And you get a blast of resources that you didn't know were out there. So if you don't know what you don't know, great place to start learning. So anyway, sorry.
Community, networking, always good things. Peak Parable says to David, I never slate my auditions. I get right to business and audition. They have a lot to listen to and don't waste time. I put my name and other vital info as part of the file name of the audition. Perfect. Let's see. Let's find some questions. Looking for questions. Caesar's talking about buying stuff from Sweetwater. Hey, Dylan's here. Dylan says, way late at a hockey tournament. Here's the donuts. We'll catch the replay for sure. Dwight has amazing insights. Happy New Year's all.
Thank you, Dylan.
Okay, so Peak Parable says to David, if a large manuscript, if it is a large manuscript, I highlight specific character or audition or to highlight where I am to make it easier to follow along, i.e. Chapter 1 or Chapter 5b. And I think this is only really going to come into play if the author has submitted like the book in its entirety or an entire chapter for an audition. And again, you don't have to read all of that for the audition. You only need 2 to 3 minutes max for an audition. That just means that the author didn't know how to cut out a smaller snippet, basically, of the manuscript to send you for auditioning. Colette is here. Hey, Colette. She says, Happy New Year, everyone. Donuts are in the kitchen. Perfect. What kind of donuts are they? I'm hungry. Musical Neptunian says, my difficulty is my quasi-British family has a culture of not celebrating. I have to celebrate in spite of that. I think you should. Peak Parable says to David, some rights holder upload whole books. So I pick one spot to highlight good skill, make it as easy as possible for rights holder to follow. Less barrier makes more yes. And then, hello, Dave. Good morning. Musical Neptunian says, I achieved my goal this morning of watching 3 of these in my Aussie time zone. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm already in 2025. Random memes. Good morning, random memes. Hello. Let's see. Looking for questions. I'm sorry, everybody. There's a lot of people. Okay. Here, David says to Peak Parables, good advice. Thanks so much. This will give me more confidence in the audition process. Erica Carr says, goal, get coaching from Angela. Oh, how sweet. At least join the platinum group. It's not, I hate tooting my own horn. You guys all know that. But I mean, compared to some other programs out there, it's $20 a month. We meet once a week. We have a great time. Plus you get scripts and you got access to Dwight. You got access to Caesar. You got access to all the other people who pitch in to help one another. So, I mean,
Wendy, Eric, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Glowen says over 2 weeks, real life work doesn't allow for many in a day. Oh, okay. So you're shooting for 10 auditions. This is what we were talking about earlier, 10 auditions in 2 weeks. Okay. So it sounds to me that, okay, even if you have limited time in the day to, you would have to have some time available to you during the day. If you actually landed a book job, you would have to be able to have time to commit to producing that audiobook. So even if it's a half an hour a day, an hour a day, it sounds like we need to get the audition process down to 5 minutes. We might be spending too much time on the audition process itself. It should only take you 5 to 10 minutes to create and send an audition, because you gotta get on them, right? Because as you know, if you're auditioning, they're not there all day. They're not there for weeks. They're not there for months. Sometimes a new audition pops up and then it's gone within hours. So you have to jump on them. You have to be quick. We might need to streamline your audition process is what it sounds like. Glowin. Khan says, I aim to learn more in lip sync and dubbing space. Any suggestions on good software? I know Adobe Audition will allow you to upload a video reference in the DAW itself, so you can see what's going on in the video as you're recording. I mean, I know some other DAWs do that too, but I'm always going to recommend Adobe Audition because I personally use it, and I know that it does that. I've used it for that purpose many times. Rockin' Dave Byron says, Happy New Year's, Angela, and all. Hope everyone has a very blessed and successful new year. Rock on, and God bless. Flint Crossing Creative says, what are your strategies to protect your voice of daily use when starting out? I take a lot of breaks. Stay hydrated, always have a bunch of water with you. I limit my time. There you go. There you go. He's double-fisted. I limit my time in the chair to 2 hours max, and then I get up and move around, not only for your own body, but I mean, it's good for you. Mentally, physically. You don't want to be sitting that long anyway, but give yourself a break. But if we're talking like audiobooks, I always over-allow time to complete. Example, if the book in reality is going to take me maybe 2 weeks to produce, I'm still going to ask the rights holder for 3.5 weeks, maybe even a month. Because there's going to be periods of time within that production time frame where I might get sick. Life happens, right? Life is lifing. Or you just need a day or two to rest. This is your moneymaker now. This is your instrument. You need to rest it and take care of it. So steam baths, water, breaks, lots of rest. What do you do, Dwight, to take care of your voice?
Well, pretty much I do the same thing. I I typically do 1 hour. And I get up, like I say, I go out for drinks, and I go check out my dogs, get a little cuddle fest, change my whole thing because you're locked into a small space, so it's a mental thing as well. And then I definitely do I do a hot tea usually by the second hour I'm doing. I try not to schedule more than 2 hours of recording time a day. I'm actually sitting, having my butt on the booth stool and recording. But all the other things I have to do in the day, teaching, everything else, I break it up. But when I'm actually recording, I'm definitely got a hot tea, usually in the middle, but
Do
I'm
you,
definitely hydrated to rest.
what kind of tea do you use? Do you use that throat coat tea?
Actually, I've been fortunate. I just use some regular old black tea. I use red rose tea. I don't even put honey in it. If I have a sore throat, I use a Clorox spray, which works very, very well.
Clorox?
It's not Clorox. I'm sorry. It's called chloroseptic. It's chloroseptic.
Chloroseptic. Good Lord, please don't
Yeah.
be using
Yes.
Clorox as a throat
Sorry. No.
spray.
Chloroseptic. Oh, man. Hold on. What? No mom look?
I was like,
No poisoning. No Clorox.
yeah, don't
Chloroseptic. No. It's
no.
green.
This
It's
is this
nasty, but
is
it works great.
this is what happens when you're live, folks. So chloroseptic, not
Chloroseptic.
Clorox. For the
Yeah.
love of God. Okay.
Chloroseptic spray works very well.
So any kind of warm drink is
I
probably going to
told
be
you not to
good.
invite me. No. Yeah.
No, you didn't. You
Oh,
didn't.
you're
But
right.
I'm going to give you the mom look anyway.
I
All right.
got it. Yay! My day is
Hey.
complete.
If you're looking for a great recommendation for a tea, there is a tea that's called Throat Coat. I think it's Nature's Medicine or something like that. It's on my website. I have it. It's on you can find it on Amazon. It's a great one. It's got like that slippery elm or whatever that is that sort of coats the throat. Does have a sort of a black licorice sort of a taste to it. I'm not like a super big licorice fan, but it does its job, and that's a definite helper. But green tea, just about any tea, feels good to sort of soothe the throatal region. Clorox. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can find a couple more questions.
Yeah. I'll be laughing on that all day.
Good God.
And
Okay.
the body count goes up.
Peak Parable says, primarily do audiobooks. What other beginning categories would you recommend for limited Fiverr gigs that you recommend setting up? I always recommend for if you're looking at Fiverr, when you first start out, you have 4 gigs that you can start out with. So I would have 1 gig for whatever it is that you want to do. In this case, it sounds like audiobooks. So you would have an audiobook gig. And then I also recommend opening up what I call a general voiceover gig, which is sort of a catch-all for everything else apart from audiobooks, right? Mainly because audiobooks and all other types of VO are priced differently. Audiobooks are per finished hour, right? All the other types of VO is priced a different way, so you want to have 2 separate gigs. And then I also recommend considering having a IVR gig or a phone greeting gig because those can be volume gigs, right? So those are the 3 that I always recommend to people. And if you're good with character work, have a character gig because that character gig for Fiverr is not only could be seasonal, but it's evergreen because there's always a need for character work. If you think video games, animation, so on and so forth. And then you could also slightly change that gig every season to, a Christmas character or a Halloween character. You can do that as well if you're good with character work. Kirsten Calais says, Happy New Year, planning to join Platinum for my New Year. We'd love to have you. I think that's a fabulous goal. Fabulous goal. Musical Neptunian says to Glowen, one way I have heard from audio professionals is to streamline by having an ultra simple DAW setup to record, push buttons, send. Example, Ocean Audio. I've never heard of Ocean Audio. Have you heard of Ocean Audio, Dwight?
I have. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it.
Colette says it's learning how to manipulate the DAW. That's the most important thing on my list. Yes, it's a tough time-consuming and tough and frustrating part of the learning process, but definitely worth the investment of time. Caesar says, first off, hydrate. Water is good. Coconut water is better. Love coconut water. Pick a good mouthwash like Biotin or TheraBreath, not Clorox. Get a throat spray, not Clorox. Is it propolis? Propolis is great. Throat soothers like throat coat tea is excellent. Gruthers, Valda, Ricola. Also, schedule breaks. And don't record until your throat is raw. Maybe 2 to 3 hours. Okay, let's see if we can just get to some questions. Pamela's here. Hey, Pamela. I am in lurk mode. Happy New Year, and thanks, Dwight.
Glad I could do it. Thank you.
Caesar says, protecting your voice. This is underrated, but do not scream in frustration when you make a mistake.
What do you mean?
See, now you're getting it. Yeah. Now you're in trouble. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You see that, Dwight?
Yeah, the body count's building up. Thanks, Caesar. No, Caesar.
I'm sorry, Dwight, but I think this is going to live in infamy for you.
Oh, my God, it is.
But you know what? It would have been easily something I would have said and not even thought twice until you went, Angela, what did you just say? Oh, my God. It's, when you get older.
Watch it.
Adults say the damnedest things. Right?
We revert. We revert to our earliest childhood.
Oh, my God.
And here it comes. Ding, 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 ding. And we'll end on a laugh.
Oh my God. Okay. Caesar says throat coat is from Traditional Medicinals. Okay, that's the name of it. I absolutely love it. Angela, did you say the throatal? I did say throatal region. The throatal, the spinal, the throatal, the facial, Oh, God.
I'm going to drink on that one.
That was bad, Dwight. Definitely could have been worse.
I'm not sure.
Oh, my God. Okay. We've been on for like an hour and a half. It doesn't look like there's any specific questions. People just giving you a hard time about your little slip up there.
Yeah.
Is there anything, Dwight, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I know you're usually here in the chat. It was nice to bring you on and let you share some of your insights with us. Is there anything that you feel is important to leave everyone with for specifically New Year's goals? I mean,
if there was one thing I would say, and it's quickly 2 parts, dream, definitely your goals need to be blast them all down there. You were right. Get everything you can down there and then prioritize after that. Lastly, nothing is negative. No stinking thinking, and celebrate your successes as you go along. Everything you look at last year and celebrate big and little wins. Mm-hmm. And as you move through this year, as you accomplish stuff, really, really appreciate them. Appreciate, hey, I did this. A year and a half ago, I couldn't have done this. I mean, so you have to do that. And that helps you get over the imposter syndrome. Yeah. That's part of the healing process. And I'll call it a healing process because you guys are good. You're here, you're consistent. We see a lot of the same names, showing up 80% of the job, consistently doing it over and over. That's what it's about. So happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for inviting me, Angela. I had a good time. Sorry I tried to kill some of your listeners. If you're down by 20% next week, you'll understand why.
I'll blame you.
Yeah, everybody always does.
Well, I mean, thank you again, Dwight, for coming on. And again, for anybody else watching this on Team Replay, oh God, the comments.
No Clorox.
If there's something specific that you want us to talk about, or I'm going to take these off because I hate hearing myself muffled. If there's anything that you guys like specifically want to talk about for the next year, topic, group, whatever it is, then please put it in the comments, and then we will talk about it in weeks to come. But again, thank you, Dwight, and I'm sure I'll see you on Thursday. And everybody else, have a great New Year's.
Happy New
Celebrate,
Year, everybody.
stay safe, stay away from the Clorox, and Uber, right? Designated driver, all the good things. All right, everybody, I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Bye, Dwight.
Take care, everybody.
Let's see if I can get it to end. Maybe. Are we going to end? Is it going to end? Will it end? Come on, StreamYard. Thank you.